Hi there, I'm Suzette Kroll, registered dietitian. I'm your personal nutrition guide. This session is going to be sweet because I'm going to be talking about sugar and artificial sweeteners. Well, actually, these are things you need to really reduce in your diet, but don't worry. Remember, I told you it's easier to improve diet by addition than subtraction. So I will follow up and tell you how to satisfy your sweet cravings without sugar and artificial sweeteners. Buddy the Elf likes to stick to what he calls the four main food groups of candy, candy canes, candy corn, and syrup. But sorry, Buddy the Elf, we can't buy into your thinking. So sugar can be found naturally or added. Naturally occurring sugars are in fruit, milk, and plain yogurt. We are not concerned about avoiding these foods. These are perfectly fine to eat. Here's an example of a plain yogurt label. You can see there's 7 grams of sugar there on the label. At closer look, if you go through that ingredient list at the bottom, you can see there's no added sugar in the list. So that's telling you these 7 grams of sugar are actually naturally occurring sugar from the milk that the yogurt was made from. So again, this is perfectly fine to eat. What's not perfectly fine to eat are any of these. So sugar can be added, obviously at the table sugar or other forms of it, or added in food processing. So soft drinks, sugar sweetened beverages like sugar tea, chocolate milk, all cakes, pies, cookies, desserts, packaged processed sweet things, granola bars, Pop-Tarts, things you might think are healthy, yogurts or so-called healthy cereals, even pasta sauces, ketchup, salad dressings, and coffee creamers have added sugars in them. If this is news to you, it might be smart to go through your cupboards, refrigerator when you get home and take a look at what you've got there and how much sugar might be lurking around. The picture on the left is a so-called healthy yogurt. There's 27 grams of sugar in it. There's Pop-Tarts, which you would expect are high sugar. There's 19 grams in there, so even less than that supposed healthy yogurt. And here's some sweetened beverages. Of course, you can assume soda is high sugar, so it is actually 65 grams of sugar there, and 4 grams is a teaspoon, so that translates into over 16 teaspoons of sugar in that Coke. And the Gatorade, not better, really. There's 34 grams there, that's 8.5 teaspoons. So notice the theme here. Foods loaded with added sugars are all processed packaged foods. The American Heart Association has a recommendation for the daily added sugar limit for men and women. For men, it's 9 teaspoons or 36 grams. For women, it's 6 teaspoons or 25 grams. And remember, this doesn't include naturally occurring sugar, as in fruit, plain yogurt, and milk. The newer nutrition labels have a line there under the total sugar count that tells you how much added sugar is in a food. And you can use that number in reference to these upper daily limits. So in this example, there's 10 grams of added sugar. If you're a woman, that's almost half of the daily upper limit for you at 25, and just 2/3 of a cup of whatever this food might be. So you may be wondering, should I use artificial sweeteners or sugar-free products to cut down on sugar? And the answer, of course, is no. And why, you must be wondering? Well, artificial sweeteners hijack your taste buds and elevate the level of sweetness that you come to depend on. Now, you'd think there would be a correlation with the introduction of artificial sweeteners into the food supply and a reduction in obesity rates, and there absolutely is not. Artificial sweeteners can be added to food or drinks. You're probably familiar with the packets of Equal or Sweet and Low and Splenda. But even if you don't use any of those, you can be getting artificial sweeteners in your diet if you buy or eat any kind of diet food. Sugar-free, low sugar, low-calorie diet foods typically have artificial sweeteners in them. Here's an example of a lower-carb yogurt. At first glance, the label is looking kind of good here. It's only 3 grams of sugar. Again, 4 is a teaspoon, so that's less than a teaspoon of sugar. But if you take a closer look at the ingredient list, there is sucralose down there and asulfame potassium. Those are both artificial sweeteners. So this is a perfect example of why you don't want to just use numbers as the basis for picking a food. Avoid using calories, carbohydrate, sugar, or lack of them as the reason that you buy a food, because you can wind up with a totally junky food, but it meets a particular criteria of numbers that you're going for. Instead, I encourage you to reframe your thinking and start choosing foods for what they have. Again, not for what they don't have. Choose foods that have fiber and water and a sense of feeling of fullness or satiety that you get from them. An apple is a great snack because it has fiber and water and makes you feel full for a long time. And you might want to throw it under the bus because you think it has sugar or too high of a carb count. But yet it's a perfect snack because you're not going to eat 2 or 3 apples, but you might eat 2 or 3 sugar-free or diet granola bars because they're just not that filling, and you're filling your body up with all those chemicals. So the quickest way to avoid sugar and artificial sweeteners really is just to avoid packaged foods in general. And don't worry, I still have not forgotten. It's easier to improve diet by addition than subtraction. So I'm going to continue on and tell you what to eat now that we've talked about what not to eat. So go along to the next video and I'll fill you in on how to satisfy your sweet tooth without sugar and artificial sweeteners. See you next time. I'm Suzette Kroll, registered dietitian. I'm your personal nutrition guide.